This video is meant to help you start your soccer database in NetBeans. The first thing I would have you do is if you go to the Canvas page and click on Unit 8, you will see that you can download the soccer database from here. So I'm going to download that file and show that in the Finder. And there is the soccer database. I'm going to move that over onto the desktop and then unzip this file. Now you can do this on a Mac or a PC since it's just a Java build. Now that I have that available to me, I'm going to open up NetBeans on my computer. And once NetBeans gets opened up, I'll be able to navigate to the directory where I put the soccer database, in this case the directory, and I'll be able to load the soccer database. Once this happens, I'll show you what it looks like and we'll play around a little bit. So here I am in NetBeans. I'm going to go to File. I'm going to open a project. And here I want to navigate to the user, my user, and then on my desktop. And you can see the soccer database that was just downloaded is right there. I'm going to click on Open Project. Now there it opened up in NetBeans. And just to make it simpler, I'm going to close this other project that I have open, so it's not on the screen. Now, there's a couple places you can go to. There's two folders, the Files folder and the Source package. Now I can show you in here where those are. So in Windows, or on your desktop here in the directory, you can see there's a Files folder here which has a Help menu inside of it. And I'll show you this when it runs, where that comes from and what it's used for. And then inside of the SRC folder, we have three folders: the GUI, the static classes, and the data structures. And those are all right here. Okay, GUI, static classes, and data structure. Now, mostly we're going to be focusing today on the GUI. So what I'd ask you to do is double-click or click, and then double-click on the main frame. So the main frame, you'll see, has a little play symbol next to it. And that's because this is the runnable class. So what it is this basically shows you what it's going to look like when you run this program. So this is a GUI program, so it's a graphical user interface. And to see how it functions, this is one of the first things I want to do. I'm going to right-click on here and I'm going to say Run this file. And what will happen is it will compile the source code, and then it'll run a Java file. You can see down here it says Java, and a Java program is going to open up on my computer, and that's down here. So this is the soccer database at this point. Now, there's not a lot of information in it. You'll see down here we have player info.txt. So what you can do is from the File menu, you can go to Open, and you'll have to go to the desktop, and you'll have to go to the soccer database, and you can choose this player info.txt. And that will bring the information from that text file into our Java program. And now you'll get to see how it works. So the information that I brought into the Java program was in this text file called player info. Now you can open this text file if you want to on your computer. It'll open up in text editor, or it'll open up in simple text or something like that. Now I would say you don't want to modify this, because if you modify this, then it won't open in the program the next time, because it has to be in a certain format. But you can see that format now. The first thing is a 3, and it looks like some name information and then some numbers. So let's figure out what that means. So here's the roster. Clearly the first name, last name, the number on their jersey, and the position they played all showed up in this text file. And then we're going to click on this Goals tab, and you can see that 3 games have been played for this soccer team. And that's what this 3 is representing. So that means when it loads the information from the text file, it's going to read in the first 3 numbers and store those into games 1, 2, and 3. Now, it's statically storing, I think, 25 numbers in this list because it's an array. So it's set to 25. The first 3 are the only ones that are used because the computer knows from this first number on the text file that only 3 games have been played, so it ignores the rest of the numbers, and that's why they're all set to -1. So we have goals, we have roster. Now, if you click on this help documents, what happens is it brings up this help menu. And this is not terribly important, but if you wanted to, you could explore the information that's in here. Those of you, and maybe you're good at HTML, if you go to the files in the help menu, those files are in there. Okay. Now, on our edit menu, we can add a player and delete a player, and we can sort by different things. The add and delete player also down here is buttons, so you can do it from either the file menu or the edit menu or by the buttons. The file menu has open, which you saw us use, import names, which we'll get to a later time, save the data. You can save as, so if you want to, maybe I want to save it, and instead of saving it as player info.txt, I want to save it as new player info.txt. So then I hit save, and you can see in on my directory of my hard drive, here right in my hard drive, it wrote a new text file called new player info. So now that's good in case I accidentally change the other one. I have 2 versions of this file. So that's what happens if you do save as. Okay, and of course you can quit. Now if you hit save, it's just going to save the information to the old one. Now I'll show you how that changes. You can sort of see in the preview window, new player info here and player info are the same. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the goals here and I'm going to add a game. And it adds a game and it leaves these all at 0. Now maybe Tom Jones scored, so I'm going to double click on Tom Jones here. I'm going to say he scored 2 goals in this game. Okay. And Mickey Mouse hasn't scored yet, but Mickey Mouse came out, got a goal in this game. Okay, so I've added that information. Now I go back to here, and the average goals has been updated already. Okay. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to save. So I hit the save button there, and I'm looking, and the player info didn't change, but new player info did because I went to save as. So now this is being saved as new player info. And if we look at it, now it says 4, okay, where player info said 3, and it has information for the 4th goal, or the 4th game, goals for the 4th game. So that's a little bit about how it's functioning. Okay, now we can also add a player if we want and give it a first name. Let's go Johnny Rocket is on the team, and he is a sweeper. Oh, I gotta put that in the right place. He is number 99, and he is a sweeper. Okay. I hit submit. Okay, so it puts Johnny Rocket on the team. Now it sets all of his goals for the first 4 games to 0s. Okay. Now, again, if we have new player info being brought up here, and I go to save, okay, what's going to happen then is new player info now has more information. New player info now has Johnny Rocket in there. So you can see that the nice thing about this program now is it saves your progress. We've not yet written a program that saves progress as you go, that actually saves information to the hard drive. Okay? Everything was in the volatile memory, which is in the RAM. So anytime the program closed, all the information was lost in our Battleship program or other programs we've written so far. What we're doing now is we're saving memory to saving information in the non-volatile memory, like our hard drive. Okay, and this memory, even with power loss, maintains the data. Now, for us to do that, then we have to load the data into our program and then unload it or save it when we're done using our program. Okay, so now you see a little bit about how it functions. Now we're going to go a little bit into the code. So I'm gonna close this out. You can see it stopped running. And I'm gonna, instead of going into the design here, this is the design, and what you can do is you can use this builder over here to drag in new panels. I can drag in a new button if I wanted to. Maybe I want a button down here that does something else. You can drag a button in from here. But I'm gonna go and we're gonna look at the source code. Now, one of the first ways to do this is to, let's look at this add player button, because I added a player in my example so far. I'm gonna right click on this and I'm gonna go to events, action event, action perform. So what this does is if you click on this button, it tells you it's going to go to this code. So I click on it, okay, and it goes right down to here. So this is the code. Oh, this one here is the code that gets called if you hit the add player button. Okay. Now it brings up a new dialog box, and then it refreshes the panels. Okay. Now when it brings up a new dialog box, it makes a new add panel. What's the add panel? Oh, it's right here. So I'm going to double click on that. So it brings up this panel. And you can see that's what happened. Now, if I go to the source code of this, okay, and you can go back and forth between the design and the source code with these buttons up here, you'll see how it works, a little bit about how it works. What it does is if they hit the submit button from this panel, okay, again, on this panel there's a submit button, it will go to the text fields, the 4 text fields that were on this panel, and it will try and get the information. Now I say try because it's in a try catch. What this means is that if there's some error in here, it will not break the program. It will try, and if there's something wrong, it will just catch it and say there's an error, and it will keep going. Now, if there is nothing wrong, it will pull the information. You can see I'm pulling text from these two. This one, once I pull the text, I'm changing into an integer because it's a number, and this one I'm pulling text. Then I'm going to go to the main class, and I'm going to call the add player method. This will add a player with this first name, last name, number, and position. All right, so I'm gonna right click on this and navigate to this source. So now I'm in the main class. So I'm back in mainframe, and you can see what add player does is it goes to the players dot add. What is players? Well, players is an array list. Okay, so it's a list of soccer player objects. Okay, so I'm taking this array list and I'm adding a new soccer player to it. So what is this doing? It's calling up the constructor of a soccer player. Well, let's go to the soccer player class. Well, here's the constructors of the soccer player. I have 3 of them written. Okay, 4 of them written. So I've overloaded the constructor. So I said, well, you can make a new soccer player and pass me no information. I'll just set everything to null and their number to 0. Okay, or you can construct a soccer player with first name, last name, number, and position, which is the one we just called. However, we might need another one. Okay, and let's think about this other one. This one says you have to pass in first name, last name, number, position, and number of games. We actually saw that one in action when I added Johnny Rocket to the roster. This is the one that actually got called, because at that point we had actually already played 3 games, or maybe it was 4 games. So it had to set the first number of his games to 0. It had to know that we had already played some games, so it sets all of the values of his goals for those games that have been played to 0. And then lastly, this is the last constructor. Okay, passing in first name, last name, number, and position, and also how many goals. So this is the constructor that's called when you load it from the text file, because you're loading in the array of goals for each of them. And then there's some setters and getters to set names and get names. And there's a method in here to get the average. So this is the appropriate class for that to happen. And there's just a get method, and we can talk about that later. So this is a little introduction to the soccer database. And what you want to do is you want to first get it downloaded to your computer, and then get it running, and see if you can just play with it and sort of understand it, and then just dig into the code a little bit and see if you can see where things are coming from. Okay. You know, if you wanted to see how it was saved, go here and then right click on this and say, let's go to this action event. So when save is called up, it calls this save method. Okay. Well, we can right click on here and navigate to this source. And there it is. There's actually the code that's called when we save it. Okay. And what are you seeing? Well, we're opening what's called a print writer. And then we're writing the number of games. We're writing a line, which is the number of games which you saw in the text file. And then it's looping through all the players. And it's writing their first name, last name, number, position. Okay. After it does that for the player, then it loops through all of their goals and it writes all their goals. And then it ends the line. Okay. And then goes to the next player. And it does that until it gets through all the players. And then it closes the print writer. Okay. All right, well, I hope this has helped you get an introduction to the soccer database. We'll work on it more in class.